Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week I'm already kind of halfway through, partway through 3 different things, so we will be continuing all those things, and maybe if we finish some of them we could start something new, but I guess we will see. So the first thing that I am reading is The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. I'm exactly halfway through it because it's 500 pages and I've been forcing myself to read 50 pages a day, and I really have had to be forcing myself because I don't really like Mistborn Era 2, and I thought with this last 4th book in the series that because it has like more of the bigger Cosmere world stuff in it, or that's what I'd heard, I thought I might like it better. A lot of people who didn't necessarily like Mistborn Era 2 either do say the last one is better, but so far my experience has been that this still has all the things that I don't like about the series. I don't like the humor. I don't really like the characters. I don't really like the way the detective investigations are done. I always feel like the characters are making logical leaps, and part of me is like, am I just too dumb to understand those logical leaps? I don't think so. There's certainly plenty of other books where I'm able to follow like a logical investigation that don't feel like this. But anyway, I will, after I film this update, go and force myself to do my 50 pages. Honestly, I would DNF this if it wasn't for the fact that it's part of the bigger Cosmere, and I want to know that so that I can take this information into Wind and Truth in any future books in case it's relevant. So that's kind of my reading vegetables of the week. My sweet treat is Gideon the Ninth. So I have been really enjoying this, but I've only been reading it before bed. I kind of like to have an ebook that I can read at night so that I can read with the lights off, and I could not get my hands on the ebook of Mistborn Era 2, but also like I really need a break from the Lost Metal at times. Like, I don't know, I mean, maybe we should just sit down for 5 hours straight, probably more like 6 hours, and finish it off. That sounds awful. I'm not going to do that. So instead, I'm taking breaks with Gideon the Ninth. It's saying that I'm 37% of the way through. This is basically following this woman named Gideon, who has always felt like she was trapped on her home planet of the Ninth House. But she does make a deal with the head of the house that if she provides security on this competition type thing, that then she will gain her freedom. So now her and Harrow, the head of the house, are at this place trying to figure out the competition. What the competition is about is very vague, and the whole thing is really weird because you've got necromancy and all these kind of like old historic buildings, but also like hints of technology, and it's quite a weird contrast, and the writing as well is very distinct. I am enjoying it, but it's been frustrating me that I've been putting all my effort into reading The Lost Metal and not enough effort into reading Gideon the Ninth. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen this week, but I'm going to try and read more Gideon the Ninth if I can. I'll definitely get to some of it. The other thing I've been doing is listening to the audiobook of The Book That Broke the World. Now I have this in BorrowBox, and BorrowBox is always really annoying. I just wish apps would tell you what percentage of it through are you. Instead it's like you're 9.5 hours in and you've got 6 hours to go. So does that make me like 2/3 of the way through? Something like that. Anyway, this is the sequel to The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. It's hard to talk about what it's about. We're kind of following this girl named Lavera who was brought up in the desert and then was taken to the city where she learned about this magical library. The magic of the library is kind of magic, kind of technology. Sometimes it's a little bit unclear where the line is of that. And we're also learning a lot about kind of the history of the world, these different races or different species that have been at war over the ages, and kind of the constant destruction of different civilizations. There are some really great themes and like the way that it's looking at different conflicts, and some of the lines are really great, but also it's told in this really non-linear way. So sometimes I am struggling to stay invested. Like when it's more plot focused, I'm there, but I never really found myself caring much about the characters. They just don't feel that well developed to me, and I know I've seen some character-based readers saying they think the characters are great, so I guess it depends what you like. But for me, the characters aren't really like connecting with me, but There are elements of the plot I like. It just keeps deviating off and then I lose focus. But I do think that there are significant parts where I'm feeling invested in it. So I am excited to try and finish that off. I am listening to it at 2x speed. So if I've got 6 hours left, that's actually only about 3 hours. If I went out and did like a long walk and a bit of a run, maybe some housework, I could probably finish it off in the next couple of days. Maybe. That's going to be the goal. And then maybe we'll pick up another audiobook before the end of the week. I guess we'll see. Okay, it is early in the morning and I'm trying to get my 50 pages, The Lost Medal, in for the rest of the day. Since we woke up early, I thought let's just get it done. And honestly, I want to throw this book across the room because I'm reading this chapter and Wax and Wayne are supposed to be investigating something and there are pages and pages of Wayne just talking stupid shit like, oh, when you were searching this room, why didn't you fart in the chair? And then like 2 pages of them talking about farting in a chair. And like another bit just before, oh, where Wayne went on about having burnt this house down. And 2 pages of just nonsense. I cannot understand. I know people like this, but I hate it. I am struggling so much to get through this. Anyway, I'm timing myself. Trying to like focus and just get through this, and I kind of just need to focus and get through this, but what the fuck? The worst. I absolutely hate this book. Hello, so it is the next day because once I got through my 50 pages of this, I just wanted to put it down and walk away and not think about it anymore because it just is awful. I'm having such a terrible time. I don't like any of the characters and I don't really understand some of the motivations of the characters, and I don't feel like some of the things, like some of the lines feel inconsistent with everything that is being said about the characters. And then when it comes to like figuring out what's happening, I don't follow the logic. Like I feel like they're always like, oh, I assume this is what's happening, and then it turns out to be that. But like there were a lot of other things they could have guessed. Like one example is that one character is going to go somewhere with this other character because they know something. And they tell someone else that they can go to a safe house. And the first character is like, oh, I'm going to tell the cab driver that that safe house is where we want to go because I assume that's right. And then the other character is like, wow, you're so smart for figuring out that that's where we were going to go. Then later is talking about how we only let trusted people go to this safe house. But you just told this complete stranger to go there. So like, how trusted do you really have to be? And it just doesn't actually make sense to me that this safe house would be the place that they were going. Like, I feel like that was a logical leap that was wrong. Or at least like, you can't make that logical leap. You shouldn't be making that logical leap. But because Brandon Sanderson's trying to make out like these characters are clever, they're like, haha, that was right. And I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced about anything that's happening. We also got what should have been really cool, like a callback to Mistborn Era 1 and the characters from those books. And it should have been great. It should have been like so exciting to see that connection. I'm phrasing this in certain ways to avoid spoilers. But anyway, it should have been great. But instead, it was kind of meh. It doesn't really make sense. And there's so much of the greater Cosmere just being dumped onto this world and onto these characters. And I don't think that that makes sense either. Like, I just don't think it does anything for the story. I think it hurts this story because it really means that either you're going to be like totally overwhelmed with all this Cosmere information, or you're just going to ignore it, or you're going to have had to read like Elantris, The Emperor's Soul, Mistborn Era 1, possibly other things. Like, I just don't think that's that great for this story. I don't think the characters are making smart decisions. The way the action is written is really boring. I'm having such a terrible time with this. And I don't know, did I say at the end of my reading time yesterday, I skimmed the last little bit, and I am kind of tempted to just skim the last 150 pages. I don't know. Should I just read a plot summary? I think I'm going to skim it, but I think I'm going to hate the whole experience. Anyway, I'm about to try and sit down and read those 50 pages for today. I think it's going to be really painful. I'm not going to enjoy it at all. I can already tell, like, I'm like dreading it, but I think we'll just have to do it. Other things. So yesterday I had my regular infusion that I have at the hospital, and I took Gideon the 9th because I knew if I took this, like sometimes at the hospital, because they're usually playing the radio and the nurses are talking, it's hard to pay attention. I knew I'd never be able to pay attention to this because my brain would be looking for something better to pay attention to. So I took Gideon the 9th, and I've now made it past halfway, and I'm really enjoying it. Actually, today I went to the library and I got the physical book, mainly because I keep forgetting who all the characters are, and actually I remember who all the characters are, but they all belong to these different houses, and at the front of the physical book, and in front of the ebook, but it's just hard to flip between pages in an ebook, you know? So at the front of the ebook it basically says each house and each character. So I do think at this point I know all the characters, but sometimes it'll just refer to characters by their house, and every time I'm like, 7th house, who is 7th house? And then I can look in here and be like, oh, Dulcinea? I don't know if that's how you say it. Dulcinea and Protesilaus? You know, when you're reading in your head, you don't even bother trying to work out how to pronounce any of these. I should have used 6th house as an example. I can say Palamedes and Camilla. Anyway, I think this will help because when they reference somebody by their house, then I can look up which characters it's actually referencing. But I am really liking it. And actually what I was thinking last night is basically at this point we have a bunch of necromancers like really nerding out over these necromancer experiments. And it kind of feels a little bit like Dark Academia vibes, because we've kind of got like that obsession with this like dark academic type subject, and we've got competition between the different people, and there's like also like life and death consequences to everything that's happening. Some people have died. There's still definitely some mysteries going on. Everyone's got different motivations and different secrets. I'm really enjoying Gideon the 9th, which is lucky because I need it to balance out the lost medal. Then as well, hang on, I dropped my phone on the floor. This morning on my run, I actually finished the book that broke the world. There were parts in the last bit since I last talked to you that I was engaged, but the very ending felt very anticlimactic to me, and I just didn't really care. There were some really like awful things happening with people kind of being tortured and like just physical violence being done to people, and that was pretty awful to listen to. But also I don't feel like it was having the full effect on me because I don't find myself like fully emotionally invested in the characters. And I just feel like with this book there were some amazing moments in terms of like the themes it's trying to address and some really great lines, but the overall plot to me just doesn't support the themes strongly enough, and there's too much happening that just doesn't seem to like fit with what's going on. I don't know, I just couldn't get invested in it. But I also, like, I gave it 4 stars. I think there's a great concept and some really great ideas in there. I just found it really easy to like miss things because I would stop paying attention, and I had to keep being like, no, pay attention. And like a few times I even went back, but sometimes that doesn't even help because you go back because you think, oh, I've missed something, and then you listen to it again and you're like, nope, that still didn't stick. So I guess we'll see what the 3rd book does. It's definitely still, I think, worth reading, but for some reason I'm just not enjoying the series as much as some other people have. Oh, and since I finished that, I started listening to Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. Straight away I thought, oh, I don't know if I'm in the mood for a YA book, because it's meant to be like a murder mystery. Maureen Johnson also writes the Truly Devious series that I really liked, and instead of writing the sequel to that, she wrote Death at Morning House, and I thought, that's fine. I like Maureen Johnson's writing. I'll pick it up. And I do like her writing. I think she writes like really anxious, awkward teen characters that are really relatable and not too annoying for me as an adult to read. However, the first like chapter was just this teenager going on a date. And that is not what I want to read. I was so bored. But we've kind of now got her at this morning house where previously back in history, I think I kind of missed it at the beginning because I wasn't paying attention again, but a bunch of the family members ended up dead. The children, I think. And so now this girl in the future is going to be working at this house where they're kind of treating it as a historical location that people come and get tours. So she's going to be giving the tours along with some other teenagers that are also staying there. And I assume trying to solve the mystery. If it's anything like Maureen Johnson's other stories or the Truly Devious books, something will be happening in the future, some kind of mystery that will kind of push the desire to solve the past. So it's also jumping back and forth between the two timelines. We're getting some parts of the teenagers in the house back in time as well when these murders happened. And like, I really love Maureen Johnson's writing. I just don't know if I was ready for that much teenagerishness at the moment. But it will be really fun, I think, once it gets into it. Anyway, filming this was a great distraction, but unfortunately, now I have to try and read 50 pages of this. Hello, so it is early in the morning. I have not even brushed my hair. However, I want to get better at vlogging without really like getting myself together. Does that sound weird? I'd rather be giving you my thoughts as they're actually happening, but it does mean putting this on the internet, so we'll see. Anyway, it's early in the morning, but mostly today is just kind of a waiting day. So since I'm waiting for other things to happen, or maybe we'll go out later, it depends on the weather. It's kind of a shitty-ish day, I don't know if you can tell. Anyway, I'm going to spend some time reading some more of The Lost Metal. Part of me is tempted, since I don't really have much going on this morning, just to try and read the final 100 pages and be done with it. But I guess we'll see how I feel about that at the end of the first 50 pages that I need to read today. I will admit, for the 50 pages that I read yesterday, the first half actually wasn't that bad. We had this one character actually going somewhere and discovering some information to like figure something out rather than just making stupid guesses and them turning out to be right. So like that was much more satisfactory. Like, oh, we actually figured something out and we actually had some like proper action and like characters were actually acting like themselves. So there was a good bit and I was thinking, oh, maybe I won't have to skim the end of this book. Maybe it's fine. But then we got back to Wax and Wayne and I think I even put a tab in. But I remember it was because Wayne was going on about not being a good person and being so sad about it. And Wax was like, oh no, you are a good person, which is not true at all. And Wayne says, mate, I burned down a building today and not one you're supposed to burn down, like a school. Like, he's making a joke about burning down a school. And this is in the middle of a big stupid conversation where we're trying to argue that he is a good person. It's just not funny. It's not clever. It's a waste of my time. Like, we're in the middle of this big apocalyptic event and Wax and Wayne are having a beer and trying to tell Wayne that he is a good person, except he's clearly not a good person. So... And I can see some of the ideas that Brandon's trying to get across, like as long as you have good intentions and as long as you're trying to be a good person, then you are a good person. But honestly, if you're trying to be a good person and you're burning down buildings and murdering people and doing all sorts of other terrible things, like maybe you're still not a good person. Anyway, I hate the whole thing. So that was annoying. But hopefully we'll get back to the good bits for the very ending. I'm not that hopeful, but we'll see. Okay, so I thought I would try recording on my MacBook. To be honest, I just recorded this update on my MacBook and realized I was not actually recording. Wow, Penny, super amazing smart. Anyway, I just got back from lunch with Jace and it is super hot today, so humid, and I think earlier, I don't know if it was in this vlog, I was complaining about wanting warmer weather. We have it, but I didn't really want it to be humid warmer weather. I just wanted nice warm with a bit of a breeze weather, and now the wind has disappeared, which in some ways is great, except that it's just so muggy and awful. Oops, I forgot that's what I don't like about summer, but never mind. Anyway, just before we went to lunch, I managed to finish off The Lost Metal. I did it. I am so glad to be done with this because I didn't like it. The ending was Crap. Well, I mean, it was pretty much what I expected from the rest of this book. There were some okay parts of it, but the very ending of the action was very dependent on you caring about Wayne, which, as you know from my ranting, I hate Wayne. So the emotional ending of this is all based around Wayne as a character. Don't care. Whatever. So then as well, even the epilogue is very Wayne focused. Like there's 30-something pages of epilogues where we just check in on what's happening with a bunch of different characters. And I didn't really like any of those. Even, once again, the callbacks to like Mistborn Era 1. So disappointing, and it really makes me worried for some of the future Cosmere stuff like Wind and Truth, but also the Ghostblood series, I think is what he's always calling it. Very concerned about that not being what I want at all. But I guess we'll see about the future of the Cosmere. I'm really hoping it will be good, because I just spent 2 years like reading through the whole Cosmere. Imagine if the Cosmere now starts being crap. I guess then it would be less books to read, because Brandon is hard to keep up with in terms of reading. I guess when I read books like this, I feel like slow down, take your time, try and do better. Which is what I feel about some other authors like Sean Maguire, who just pumps out things all the time. Maybe even V. Schwab to some point. Like probably some others where they just like, they do put out books really regularly, and I would actually prefer them to slow down and make them a bit better. However, I hated this. I hated this so much. But the average rating somehow is 4.48 on Goodreads. I honestly don't understand that. I don't really get how most people could read this and think, wow, so cool, because I read this, like, I can see that this would appeal to some people's sense of humor and that some people would enjoy all the action scenes, but I just can't really understand how most people would like this. And when I talk to people, a lot of people say maybe that this was their favorite in the series, but then they still don't seem to be saying that they liked it, although maybe they're only saying that because I said I hated it to them already. Since recently I was talking to people, I was always like, I hate this. Anyway, I hated this. I don't really get how other people like it. I thought a lot of it could have been deleted. Like, also near the end of it, there is a bit I did skim through where Wax and Wayne are fighting these two other people that are very similar to Wax and Wayne. Who cares? So boring. Like, just a waste of my time to try and read that properly. I didn't bother. This was not for me. And I thought with it having some bigger Cosmere stuff in it, it might be, but it wasn't. All it did is make me concerned for the rest of the Cosmere. Anyway, since I have successfully finished that, I did get together a stack of what I could read next. Primarily, I'm thinking of picking up Ancillary Justice by Leckie. So this is the sequel to... Oh, did I say Ancillary Justice? Ancillary Sword, which is the sequel to Ancillary Justice. So this is a book about this person who used to be a spaceship. So they were an AI spaceship that kind of also lived inside multiple bodies. Then something happened, and we're getting one timeline letting us know what happened, and then also a future timeline where they are now only one body, and they're basically trying to get revenge for what happened to them. And I love this, like so many cool concepts around identity and gender and just like empire. So great. I love this. I am a little bit concerned about whether Ancillary Sword could be as epic. And really, for me to love this, for me to be mind-blown by this like I was with Ancillary Justice, this needs to take things even further. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to pick this up yet, but I do think I'm going to love it. I hope I do. The other option that I have is that I could just focus on Gideon the Ninth for a while, because I've been loving that, and it would be nice to get through it a little bit faster. The only concern I had with that is that this is supposed to be my ebook, because I only have this physically, and I also only have the next book I want to read, The Sudden Appearance of Hope. I only have that physically, and so I really need an ebook for the evening. But the library has come through, and just recently I also got the ebook for Harrow the Ninth. So even if I quickly got through Gideon, I would still have Harrow to read, and I would also like to read Harrow the Ninth, because I'm loving this so much, and everything I've heard about this whole series makes me so intrigued about the direction it's going to go in, because I think it's going to be quite bizarre, and I'm totally here for it. So I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe just leaving both these books in my ebook, wherever it is, leave them lying around, and then see what I'm in the mood to pick up when I pick up. I probably also have lots of other stuff that I'm supposed to be doing at the moment, but I feel like for a long time I've just been focusing on trying to sell my house, which at the moment I'm in waiting mode, so there's nothing much I can do for that. I've been trying to catch up on my reading, which I'm kind of at a point where I am at the moment. I've been trying to catch up on BookTube. Again, I'm kind of ahead of things at the moment. I don't know how long that will last. And I feel like there were many other things that I kind of put aside while I focused on selling my house and just doing the basics of BookTube. But I can't remember what they were. So I guess I'll try and work out what I'm meant to be doing with my life. So, one good thing that I think has come out of forcing myself to read 50 pages of The Lost Metal every day is that I have gotten into the habit of thinking, oh, when am I going to fit in my hour of dedicated reading time? So this morning, since it's rainy and we're not doing much, I thought, I guess I'll sit down and read for an hour. I did pick up Ancillary Sword in the end. I was tempted by Gideon the Ninth because I was reading a little bit last night and it is quite exciting. But I also was just really curious about what I was going to get from this. So I picked it up and I've read just over 50 pages, just like I was doing with The Lost Metal. But this, it actually takes me longer to read this than The Lost Metal, but that's because I'm taking my time to make sure I'm understanding it all or trying to understand it all. I will admit, I picked up Ancillary Justice after doing a try a chapter thing where I just tried the first chapter and I thought the first chapter was amazing. The first chapter definitely isn't at the same level. It's kind of just continuing on, sort of resolving things a little bit more, or more like a transition between the events of the last book and what's going to be happening in this book. However, within that first 50 pages, I think it at least gives us some idea of what's going to be happening in this book. I'm trying to think about what could I actually say. I guess we're further investigating this idea of what it would be like to be a person with multiple bodies and then be a person with a single body. All it's really done so far is set things up. But I really like the way it did it. It kind of hinted at something and then took a little bit of time to unravel it, but not so long that you got bored. I do really enjoy these books. So much more than The Lost Metal. It's so, such a good feeling to be reading something you're actually loving compared to something you're hating, like I was with The Lost Metal. I guess that's all I really have to say. I haven't read anything more. I don't have anything else to say about Gideon at the moment, although I'm about to try and film some videos and then maybe I'll have time for some more reading. I mean, probably I should be looking at my to-do list and trying to get my life back together, but I feel like that could wait until next week.
Dancing to your beat, wanted to blend in, no self-expression, 'cause I wanted you to see I'm not so different, fitting your system.
Hello, so I just found this little spot in the middle of a tree, I am surrounded by a tree at the moment. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's just tree all around me. Anyway, who knows if that will actually help with avoiding the wind. Anyway, I think that I am at the point where I'm going to end this vlog and I'm trying to think about what else I have to say. I have read some more of Ancillary Sword and I have been really liking it. It's a bit weird because I feel very when I'm reading it, I'm invested. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just reading it. But also, I would definitely say it's nothing as epic as Ancillary Justice was. With that, you were kind of trying to work out what was going on and it had really intense moments and you were skipping between two timelines, whereas this, we're just following kind of our main character as they are doing stuff in this military ship. And actually, I could compare it a little bit to The Lost Metal in that the main character is kind of doing that thing. It's the thing where the author wants you to believe that the main character is really smart, but it's not really that. It's more that they used to be a ship. And so they still kind of have access to information that a normal person wouldn't have. And they're able to use that to make guesses about what people are doing that are factually based, but only because they have all this extra information. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of like what Brandon was trying to do with The Lost Metal, make the characters seem really smart, but something about the way that Leckie's doing it in Ancillary Sword just makes it so much more believable. Whenever they're making these logical leaps that I was always criticizing the Lost Metal for. Whenever they're making those logical leaps, there's always like facts and information to back up what they're doing. And so it doesn't really feel like a logical leap, it just feels like logic. And I guess I believe that it's more like cleverness rather than with the Lost Metal. I just don't really believe in it. Can you hear that clock tower dinging? Oh, it finished because it is 10:30. It's kind of nice living in a town with a clock tower that lets you know the time every 15 minutes. We can't hear it from our house though, which is good, because actually if I lived within hearing distance of it, I think it would drive me mental. But when you're in town and doing stuff, it's kind of useful. Anyway, I'm only 100 pages into Ancillary Sword, so I will continue that in my next vlog. Same with Gideon the Ninth. I actually think I've hardly read anything. Because it's Friday, Saturday night, we tend to watch TV and do other stuff. Oh, actually, I should mention we went to that mega fun carnival. I think I'll probably put some B-roll in. We don't really like rides, or I don't really like rides. I'm not a thrill seeker, and like there's no point playing any of the silly games because I don't want any of the kind of toys that they give away. But it's still fun to kind of go and have a look. It was unfortunately really rainy though, so never mind. And obviously just a small little carnival passing through, nothing too massive or amazing, but so like maybe not mega fun like the name suggests, but kind of fun. I don't think they could call it the kind of fun carnival though. Oh, I can feel the winds popping up, so it must be time to end this vlog. I guess the summary of this vlog is that I really didn't like the Lost Metal. Like if you are watching this and you did like the Lost Metal, tell me what you liked about it, because I am just totally mystified that it has an average rating of 4.48, I think. I just 100% do not get it. I want to get it, but I don't. Anyway, windy times, so I'm gonna go, but chat with me down below, let me know what you've been reading. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.